Hello friends, Advocate Ketaki here. Today we are going to discuss a new unit of our legal awareness program. Recently on 26 January, we celebrated Republic Day, which is our national festival too. So all of you must have uploaded your WhatsApp status or profile pictures, or you must have uploaded stories or post on FB, or at least you have forwarded messages regarding Republic Day. You are wishing each and everyone. So my question is, why do we use Republic Day? Why do we celebrate Republic Day? And why it is on 26 January only? So of course, friends, today's topic is regarding to this only. So let's start. We'll start our today's session. Yes, so Constitution of India. This is our unit 5, Constitution of India of Legal Awareness Program. All of you must have heard about Indian Constitution because in my earlier sessions, I have mentioned Indian Constitution as a supreme law of nation. So today I will try to unfold some important facts about Constitution, and I'll try to explain you why it is very important in our life and how Constitution is related to our life. So we'll start with the content. First, we'll see introduction, then what exactly Constitution means, framing of the Constitution, little bit background we'll discuss, then features of Constitution, sources of Indian Constitution, then very important topic, that is our fundamental rights. Right comes with duties. So next topic is fundamental duties, and at last we'll see some important amendments. So first of all, Indian Constitution. So my dear friend, Indian Constitution come into existence on 26th November 1949. Our country got independence in 1947, 15th of August, and almost it took 3 years to frame our constitution. So it came into existence, it became ready, it gets ready on 26 November 1949, but it came into effect on January 26, 1950. And that's the reason we celebrate Republic Day on 26 January of every year. Our constitution, one more very interesting fact, that our constitution is world's lengthiest written constitution, which had at the time of enactment, okay, when it got completed in 1949. So at that time it had 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules at the time of commencement, means in 1949. But now the Constitution of India has 448 articles in 25 paras and 12 schedules. So you must be in question what mean by article, parts and schedule. So let me explain you with the term. Article means a separate clause, like we used to give separate clause numbering, okay, so that is article. And parts means similar articles combined together in one part, like in a chapter. One chapter we used to study related to that chapter, okay. So like this, part which combine with the similar articles. Now what I mean by schedule? So schedule are basically tables, okay, which contain additional details which is not mentioned in the articles. So we could do that के schedules को we can convert into articles, but listen, बहुत लेंदी हो जाएगा. ऑलरेडी अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लेंदीएस्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है और शेड्यूल को भी विल कन्वर्ट इनटू आर्टिकल्स, तो इट विल बी टू मच लेंदी एंड कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. सो वी मेक इट सेपरेट as a schedule, so it is in tabular form. So which the additional details which is not mentioned in the articles, we mention that in schedule. So Indian Constitution originally had 8 schedules. and 4 more schedules were added by different amendments. So there are total 104 amendments that have been made in the Indian Constitution till now. Okay, and the very first amendment was made in 1950. Now, what mean by amendment? Amendment means what? Any सुधार या तो बदलाव, जिसे हम amendment कहते हैं. So the next question comes, okay, what mean by constitution? So I'll explain you with simple example. In this, we'll discuss the concept of constitution, basic types, significance, and the importance of constitution. So let's say example of a society. Okay, so any society has its basic needs which need to be fulfilled. So कौन से basic need होते हैं of any society? Society needs food, it needs a proper education, shelter, a good security and protection for their property also, for their life also, and their rights also. And the most important, that is a representative. So representative who can take decisions or represent, why we need a representative for taking decisions on behalf of the society. Now the same concept is there for a nation. Okay, like a society, our nation also has some needs. So first we'll see the need of society, and for fulfillment of need of that society, we need a system. Okay, the system which will run by a person of a person or a group of person, which will have powers and restrictions too. So it is known as representative. Then all this, what we can say, it all the process, okay, all this process is mentioned in one book, okay, to smoothly governing of the society. That book contain rules, powers, laws, restriction, what to be done, what we cannot be, what we cannot do. All these things are mentioned in the book, and that book is known as constitution. Okay, so basically what mean by constitution? A set of rules and principle which will decide how to work in that particular society or a nation. Now we saw this example about a society. If we talk about a nation, it is similar. It decides, constitution decide how to govern a nation for a safe and progressive development of the nation. It gives power to the government. It also limits the government. Okay, government does not have absolute power. Then constitution provides rights of citizens, and the three main pillar of any nation, that is legislative, judiciary, and executive, all are works according to the constitution. Now, types of constitution. Constitution has basic two types. One is written, unwritten, and second is flexible or rigid. If we talk about written constitution is in the form of book, which is well organized and written in the form of series, like one by another. And in unwritten constitution, it has a several data, as we have discussed in our earlier sessions. Some countries don't have written constitution, so they have like a common law, some order given by a court, that is also rule. Okay, so like this, in unwritten constitution, it has a several data which is unorganized, like a library. If you can see, in a library lots of books are there, so repeated data also you can found. And that in unwritten constitution, there are provisions in which different situation can be interpreted differently. The next type is flexible and rigid constitution. So flexible constitution can amended very easily. For example, Britain. Okay, Britain has a constitution which is flexible in nature. You can amend it very easily. But another type is rigid constitution, which cannot amended so easily. For example, USA. It has a very rigid constitution, a need of a process which is complicated. So it's called as rigid constitution. Now we talk about Indian constitution. What is the special in our constitution that makes it different from the other countries? Okay, so we'll talk one by one. So India has a variety in the form of religion, in the form of language, people, and their culture. We have a huge variety in our country. So our constitution also meant in that way. Though we have a lot of variety, we also have unity in diversity. And the reason is constitution only. Because of constitution, we are succeed to make unity in our diversity. India's constitution is world's longest written constitution. Constitution also decides the function of government, how government will enact, okay, then how it will run, its rights, duties, and limits. Everything will be decided by constitution. Constitution also provides fundamental rights to its citizens. And the separation of power, as I said, three pillars of our government, that is judiciary, parliament, and executive. So all those three pillars have a separation of power. No any single government has absolute right. Okay, so constitution written in such a beautiful way that power is separated in the government's three organs: judiciary, legislative, and executive. Now, what is the important to study the constitution? You must have thinking that, okay, why it is necessary to study, why to study, what will happen and what will understand. So constitution is the book by which uh, that book only represents that our country is republic country, it has democracy, then citizens has fundamental rights, and nobody can infringe fundamental right of Indian citizen. So we'll discuss one by one. Now we'll see a little bit background. You must have got a basic idea about constitution. Now we'll see background of our constitution. So the Constitution of India was drafted by a body. Body means that assembly or committee. The name is Constituent Assembly. So there are brilliant people was there in the assembly, like Jawaharlal Nehru, B.R. Ambedkar, Vallabhbhai Patel, Abdul Kalam Azad, then Rao, Rajendra Prasad. So many brilliant people was there. So I'll just mention some of the committees and their representative. So Rajendra Prasad was leading the Constituent Assembly. Benegal Narsingh Rao was the chief constitutional advisor. B.R. Ambedkar leading drafting committee. Jawaharlal Nehru to the represent power of nation, power of union or central government committee, and Vallabhbhai Patel was the chairperson of the province committee and advisory committee. Now, what are the features of Indian constitution? With the help of features only, we come to know how that constitution or the book is, how strong it is. Okay. So the Indian constitution provides for a federal structure. What mean by federal structure? Power is separated in between central government and state government. So we'll see one by one. First and very important feature is that longest and the most detailed constitution in the world. Next is rigidity and flexibility. Now it is depend upon how we can do amendment in it. Amendment means what? How we can do sudhar and badlav in the constitution It depends on rigidity and flexibility. The Indian constitution is a combination of rigidity and flexibility, which means some part of it can be amended by the parliament by a simple majority. Okay, but whereas some parts are there which require two-third majority as well as not less than one half of the state legislature. Okay, you need to fulfill this requirement, then only you can amendment in specific part of constitution. Next is parliamentary system of government. Now the Indian constitution provides for a parliamentary system of government, that is a real executive power rests with the council of minister, okay, means the parliament, and the president is only a nominal ruler, and it is mentioned in article 74. The next feature is federal system with the unitary bias. Now I told you what I mean by federal system, where power is separated in between state and central. Then what mean by unitary base? Unitary bias. So unitary bias means in which power is means all the power has only with only central government. So in India, both state and central government devise their authority from the constitution. But India in a federation, okay, with unitary features also. So unitary means what? Single central government has total power. But in India, central government makes rule on union list. Union list means some subjects are mentioned to make laws. So union list is there, state list and concurrent list. So in state list, state government has power to make laws, and in concurrent list, both the government has a right to make laws. But what happen if in case of dispute is arise in between the two government, then the will of central government will prevail. Okay, so central government has a right, it has a constitutional right to make changes in the boundaries of state also. State government does not have that right. The next very beautiful feature is fundamental rights and fundamental duties. Fundamental rights are mentioned in under article 12 to 35, and fundamental duties are mentioned under article 51A. Next feature is directive principles of state policy. It is mentioned under article 36 to 51. The Indian constitution mentions certain directive principles, okay, of state policy. So it is directive principles for state policy. State need to keep in mind while formulating any new policies. So secularism. Next feature is secularism. As we have discussed in one of our earlier session, secularism means what? India is a secular country, and it is secular by detaching any religious dogmas. So India does not uphold or represent any one religion. Next is, and one more thing, in Indian in Indian preamble, this secularism word is added in 42nd amendment. Next feature is independent judiciary. Indian judiciary is totally independent. Independent is separated from government. It is mentioned under article 76. And that's why our Indian government can be sued or it can sue. हम government के against भी case file कर सकते हैं because our judiciary is independent judiciary. Next feature is single citizenship. In our country, we have only one citizenship, that is Indian. Okay, हम हमारे according to state हमारी citizenship vary नहीं होती है as like USA. Bicameral legislation. In India, the Indian constitution provides bicameral legislation at central consisting of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha for state level. It is mentioned under article 79. Next feature is emergency power. And in this pandemic, we all are now very well understand what is the meaning of emergency. It is written under Article 352 to 360. And some more special powers for minorities. As we have seen, some special powers or some provisions for minorities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes has been given, like reservation. Okay, so basically those are some of the interesting features of Indian constitution, but there are a lot of features like Panchayat Raj, rule of law, uh, provision for independent bodies, which are very unique from the other nation. So one more interesting topic, that is sources of constitution. You must know that Indian constitution, we have studied constitution of other nations also, and we picked some uh, provisions which are very good and which can be suitable for our country. So some features that are borrowed from other countries. So we have borrowed some features like from Australia, Canada. So we'll just read one by one. From Australia, we borrowed concurrent list, freedom of trade, commerce, then joint sitting of two houses of parliament. From Canada, we borrowed federation with strong center, vesting of residuary power with center, appointment of state governors by a central government, and advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. That's why our Supreme Court can give advisory advisory jurisdiction has been given to the Supreme Court, so that Supreme Court can give advice to the government. So next country is Ireland. We borrowed directive principles of state policy, nomination of members of Rajya Sabha, methods of election of president. From Japan, we borrowed procedure established by law. And from Soviet Union, fundamental duties and ideals of justice. Next, from UK, we borrowed parliamentary government, rule of law, legislative procedure, single citizenship, cabinet system, prerogative rights, parliamentary privileges, and bicameralism. From US, we borrowed fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review. What mean by judicial review? Our Supreme Court, High Court has a power of judicial review. Means if our Parliament makes any law, so our High Court and Supreme Court has a power to check whether that law is as per our Constitution or not. Next feature, impeachment of the President, removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, post of Vice President. From Germany, we borrowed suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. We have experienced this now in this pandemic. Next, from South Africa, procedure of amendment in Indian Constitution, election of members of Rajya Sabha. And from France, republic, nation, okay, and ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity in the preamble. So what do you think? We have borrowed so many features from different countries. So do you think whether our India will call it as a bag of borrowing? So no, we can't say that, because there are various of provisions borrowed from other nations, but they are absorbed in the Indian Constitution to suit its polity and governance. They are not exactly copied as it is from the other governments or from the other constitution. So Indian Constitution is most detailed constitution in the world, whereas the American Constitution has only 7 articles. Australian Constitution has only 128 articles, and whereas Indian Constitution now it has 448 articles. So Indian constitution is unique in its concept and spirit. Okay, because lots of language we have in our country. So we drafted our constitution in that way. It is drafted considering the historical perspectives of Indian national and its struggles, the geographical diversity of India and its traditional characteristics, which are totally different from any other nation. So yes, we can't say like India is like Indian constitution is a boring bag. So the next very important topic, that is fundamental rights of Indian citizen. So we'll first check which are the fundamental rights. Right to equality. What mean by right to equality? It includes equality before the law. In the eye of law, each and everyone is same. Okay. The prohibition of discrimination on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, gender, okay, or place of birth, equality of opportunity in matters of employment, the abolition of untouchability and abolition of titles. Everything is mentioned in this right to equality. Now, right to freedom. Right to freedom means what? It includes freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association, union of cooperatives, movements, residence, and right to practice any profession or occupation. We have a right to express our views. Okay, that's why it's a right to freedom. Next is right against exploitation. Now it includes freedom from conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion, freedom to manage religious affairs, sorry, right of right against exploitation. No any part of society can be exploited by the other part of society. मतलब अगर कोई एक पावरफुल पार्ट है सोसाइटी का, दे कैन नॉट एक्सप्लॉइट द वीकर सेक्शन ऑफ सोसाइटी. Next is right to freedom of religion. We have freedom to practice our own religion. Cultural and educational right. We have freedom to practice as per our cultural, जो भी हमारे festivals होते हैं, we can celebrate that. Okay, that is under cultural and educational right. And right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies, which provides you कि अगर आपका कोई भी इनमें से फंडामेंटल राइट वायलेट होता है, so you have a right to seek for justice. Okay, it is known as the right to constitutional remedies. All are your fundamental rights given by Indian Constitution, and Supreme Court of India has power to check, okay, whether your any of your fundamental right is not going to be violated. That's why Supreme Court also called as safeguard of fundamental rights. Now we'll see one by one. Right to equality, which is mentioned under Article 14 to 18. So in the eye of law, as I said, we can't do any discrimination, whether the person is girl or boy or child or old age. No, everyone is same. ठीक है, injustice नहीं होगा. So in this Article 14 talk about equality before law. Article 15 talks about prohibition of discrimination on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. कहीं भी अगर आप जाते हो, like for job interview or to doing, you are willing to do any business, तो कहीं भी आपको prohibition नहीं होगा. या तो बैंक में ऐसा होता है कि नहीं, गर्ल्स को ही अकाउंट ओपन करने मिलेगा एंड बॉयज विल नॉट अलाउड टू ओपन योर अकाउंट. सो नो, देयर इज अ प्रोहिबिशन of discrimination. Next article, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. So each and everyone has equal opportunity, but some reservations are there. Again, for reservation there is another provision to uphold the minorities. Okay, otherwise no any discrimination is there. Abolition of untouchability. हम ये नहीं कर सकते, ये now it is a very long days. अभी तो I don't think so anywhere this practice is going on, but abolition of untouchability, it is also one of our fundamental right. And article 18, abolition of titles. जैसे पहले टाइटल दिया करते थे, like महात्मा गांधी जी. Okay, so Mahatma is a title, so it is also now we are doing abolition of titles. We don't give any title. Right to freedom under article 19 to 22. Everyone has a right of their thoughts, conscience, and religion. Okay, so in article 19, it is mentioned protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech. Now you can see each and everyone has a freedom on social media, या तो platform or in a meeting. Everyone can express their views, but again, my dear friends, it has a special restrictions, some restrictions. Under right to freedom, you can't say anything whatever you want. You can't do defamation of anyone, otherwise you will get charged about the defamation. So it has a certain restrictions, and with following some restriction you can enjoy your freedom of speech and expression right. So the next article is protection in respect of conviction for offenses. So in further lectures, we'll talk in detail about this. Protection of life and personal liberty. Article 21, which is very, very important article. In short, we call it as a protection of life. So as we have a right to life, okay, we don't have right to die. In one of my previous session, I have explained this concept. We have protection of life, we have right to life, but we don't have right to die. Okay, so in this article only, one more concept is there in protection of life: death penalty, okay, or capital punishment. When judges give punishment to hang till death, like kasab, तो क्या ये अगेंस्ट नहीं है प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ लाइफ? सो इन रेयर जो केसेस होती है, जो ऑफेंसेस होते हैं, इन दैट ऑफेंस ओनली कोर्ट गिव दिस पनिशमेंट, कैपिटल पनिशमेंट, दैट इज हैंगिंग पनिशमेंट. सो रिसेंटली देयर वाज वन डिस्प्यूट. ओके, तो ये रिसेंट केस नहीं है, बट रिसेंटली इट इज अंडर न्यूज में था ये केस शबनम का, जो कि 12 साल पहले, जस्ट आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू समरी ऑफ दैट केस. 12 साल पहले यूपी में एक शबनम नाम की लड़की थी, जो कि डबल एमए थी इन 2 सब्जेक्ट्स, एंड शी वाज अ गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट, गवर्नमेंट टीचर थी वो. उसके घर में भी सारे लोग हाईली एजुकेटेड थे, 7 लोग कुल थे उसके घर में, अराउंड 7. और उसके घर के बाजू में एक सलीम नाम का लड़का था, जो कि बस लकड़ी काटता था, वो 6th क्लास फेल था, और इनका अफेयर था. घर वालों, शबनम के जो घर वाले थे वो टोटली अगेंस्ट थे इनके रिलेशन से. सो क्या हुआ, देन शबनम प्रेग्नेंट थी, उसके घर वाले तो शादी के लिए मान नहीं रहे थे. तो एक दिन इन दोनों ने मिलके घर में जो सारे मेंबर थे सबका मर्डर कर दिया, ठीक है, बाय गिविंग सम पिल्स. उनके डिनर में वो सारे बेहोश हो गए. फिर रात को शबनम ने सलीम को बुलाया, दोनों ने मिलके दे कट देयर थ्रोट. और जो वो घर के लोग थे 7 मेंबर्स, उसमें एक 10 मंथ का बेबी भी था, उनका भी इन दोनों ने उस बेबी को भी मार दिया. सो कोर्ट गिव पनिशमेंट फॉर अ कैपिटल पनिशमेंट फॉर बोथ ऑफ देम, शबनम को भी एंड सलीम को भी. और 12 साल लगे ये पूरा ये होने के लिए, क्योंकि जब डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट कैपिटल पनिशमेंट अनाउंस करता है तो रिस्पेक्टिव जो हाई कोर्ट है उसको भी ये जो कैपिटल पनिशमेंट है वो चेक करनी होती है. तो हाई कोर्ट ने भी कैपिटल पनिशमेंट ही जारी रखी. फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट में केस गई तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी कैपिटल पनिशमेंट ही अनाउंस की. फिर जो तब तक शबनम जो प्रेग्नेंट थी, उसका बच्चा भी हुआ, उसका बेटा था, अब वो 12 साल का है, तो उसने प्ली किया है, जो हम बोलते हैं कि मर्सी पिटिशन ही हैज फाइल्ड. तो अगर लेट्स सी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी कैपिटल पनिशमेंट ही फाइनल की है, तो अगर शबनम को फांसी होती है तो शबनम will be the first woman who will get capital punishment. ठीक है, इंडिया के हिस्ट्री में आज तक किसी भी वुमन को हैंग टिल डेथ की पनिशमेंट नहीं दी गई है, बट अगर शबनम को ये दी जाती है तो शबनम विल बी द फर्स्ट वुमन टू गेट दैट पनिशमेंट. तो क्या लगता है कि आज तक किसी वुमन को ये पनिशमेंट दी ही नहीं है? तो नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. देर आर 12 केसेस इन विच कैपिटल पनिशमेंट ऑर्डर हुई है वुमन को. ठीक है, बट शबनम का है जो फाइनल स्टेज पे है और उसको मे बी हो सकती है. So the next article is Article 21A, right to education. It is also our fundamental right. Article 22, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So in this matter, we have fundamental right against the arrest, against the detention in certain cases. We'll discuss this further. Right against exploitation. So as I said, one powerful group of society cannot exploit a weaker section of society. So it is explained as prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. Next, prohibition of employment of children in factories. We have separate factories act in which also it is mentioned. Right to freedom of religion. So in India, we have lots of religion and it is practiced. So Article 25 says freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. Freedom to manage religious affairs. Freedom as to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion, and the freedom as to attendance at religious instructions or religious worship in certain educational institutions. तो ये सारे अपने फंडामेंटल राइट है. नेक्स्ट इज कल्चरल एंड एजुकेशनल राइट. So we have our constitution gives protection of interested of minorities. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि वो माइनॉरिटीज है तो उनके रिलीजन, मतलब अगर माइनॉरिटीज है कोई सेक्शन और एक सेक्शन मेजॉरिटी है तो वो मेजॉरिटी वाला जो सेक्शन है सोसाइटी का माइनॉरिटीज को कुछ राइट्स नहीं दे रहे हैं, वो उनके रिलीजन के प्रैक्टिस नहीं करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. बिकॉज इट इज फंडामेंटल राइट्स गिवन बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. राइट ऑफ माइनॉरिटीज टू एस्टैब्लिश एंड administer educational institutions also. So, and the last is right to constitutional remedies. So we have constitutional remedies. As I said, we can directly approach High Court and Supreme Courts. Okay. So remedies for enforcement of rights conferred by this part. So as like we have fundamental rights, we have some fundamental duties also. Originally, fundamental duties were not there in Constitution. Okay. It has a great lacuna of the constitution. Hence, the Swaran Singh government was appointed, which recommended 12 fundamental duties, but out of which 10 fundamental duties was accepted in 42nd Amendment of Constitution. But now, at present, one more fundamental duty has been added under the 86th Amendment 2002. So there are now total 11 fundamental duties altogether. Now in their modified form, the fundamental duties are as follows: to abide by the Constitution and respect the national flag and the national anthem. We should, okay, respect our national flag and national anthem. ये सब हमें school days में ही सिखाया जाता है. Next, to cherish the noble ideals which inspired our struggle for freedom. That's why we celebrate national holidays, okay, national festivals like our Independence Day, Republic Day. Next duty is to uphold the sovereignty, unity and integrity of our country. That's why we called it as unity in diversity. To defend the country and render national service when called on to do so. To promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. to protect and improve the natural environment, include lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and have compassion for the living. To development, the sacrifice temper, humanities, and the spirit of inequality and reform. To safeguard public properties and adjure violence. To strive to achieve excellence in all the spheres of individual and collective life so that the nation makes progress. That's why we have all the rules and law. To provide opportunities for education to his child or ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. So this is also our duty to provide education to our children. Now, some important amendments in the constitution. There are some, as I said, there are total 104 amendments till now has been done in our constitution. So we'll not see each and every amendment, but some interesting and important amendments are there that we'll see. Why we do amendment? As like society change, okay, time by time, so our law also need to change, but we cannot change our basic structure of our constitution. And whenever we need to do amendment, okay, बदलाव या सुधार करना है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, तो वी ऑलवेज कीप इन माइंड कि जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेम हो रहा था तो तब इंटेंशन क्या था असेंबली का, कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली का, ये हम देखते थे. Okay, so as like 10th amendment, in which what happened? So Dadra, Nagar and Haveli incorporated in the Union of India as a union territory. Like in 12th amendment, Goa, Daman and Diu incorporated as a union territory. So in 13th amendment, Nagaland was formed with special status under Article 371A. There is one more amendment in 21st amendment. Okay, Sindhi language was language into that is included in 8th schedule of Indian Constitution. 8th schedule represent the language, official languages in India. Okay, and 61st amendment. This is one of the important amendment. 61st amendment. The voting age was decreases from 21-year-old to 18 year for both Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly elections. So such we need to do such amendments. Okay, in not only in constitution, we used to do amendment in our laws also. So the next some important amendments are like in 71st amendment, Konkani, Manipuri and Nepali languages were included in the 8th schedule of the constitution. Now the total number of official languages increased to 18. In 86th amendment, elementary education was made a fundamental right. Fundamental right we have seen, right to education, 21A. So it is free and compulsory education to children between 6 to 14 years of age. A new fundamental duty under Article 51A was also added under this amendment. So the next, in 92nd amendment, Bado, Dogri or Dongri, Maithili and Santhili were added. All those were the languages were added in 8th schedule. Now in 2003, the total official languages were increased 18 to 22. And one more, like 101, 103, several amendments are there. Okay. In 103rd amendment, the maximum of 10% reservation for economically weaker sections of citizens of classes other than the classes mentioned in the clause 4 and 5 of Article 15. Means what? Already reservation was given, okay, to the backward classes, but now again 10% more reservation was given to economically weaker section, that is classes other than socially and educationally backward classes of citizen or the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Means apart from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, which class is there who has economically weaker class? Unko bhi 10% reservation has been allotted. So I hope constitution is such a huge topic, but we have summarized constitution in this session. So students, thank you for your attention. And if you have any doubt or queries, then your questions are welcome. So thank you very much. I hope this session will be useful for you. And thank you for giving me opportunity to share my knowledge. Thank you very much.